It's never around this way with you guys. We'll call the regular Board of Supervisors meeting into session. The invocation will be by Pastor Paul Schmidt from Liberty Hill Christian Church, to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Hawes. If you'd all stand, please.
First of all, I want to thank the board for allowing me this opportunity. Thank you very much. If you'll bow your heads. Father, we love you, and we know that we live in an incredible country. Father, we live in an incredible county, and we thank you for that. And my prayer today is for each and every one of the people that are on this board that you have ordained for this time to help run this county. I pray blessings upon each and every one of them, upon their families. And Lord, as they discuss the agenda today and for future events for this county, we pray that the moral and biblical codes from your word will come to light. You're an awesome God, and we pray your blessings upon our county. And Father, we ask that you would watch over our military all over the world as they protect this great country that we are allowed to live in. You're an awesome God, and we love you. In your precious Son's name, amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hawes. The next item on the agenda was introductions. That was inadvertently put on the agenda, so we'll move on to public comment period. Those wishing to speak should come forward and give their name. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the board pursuant to the Brown Act. Action or board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than to receive the comments and, if deemed necessary, to refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up and or to schedule a matter on a subsequent board agenda. I have no advance requests. Anyone else wish to come before us today? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to regular calendar. R1, which is a Employee of the Month presentation. I'll read the Josette Shipley, Community Education Specialist 2. Now therefore be resolved that Josette Shipley, Community Education Specialist 2, Health and Human Services Agency, Public Health, is hereby named Shasta County Employee of the Month for April 2012. And be it further resolved that Josette is an exemplary employee. She is thorough, caring, supportive, and sensitive to co-workers' needs. She displays a wealth of knowledge and has years of experience in public health. She is able to complete assignments while supporting colleagues and encouraging others to maintain ownership of their projects and also provide their own ingenuity and insights. Josette is empowering and encourages personal pride in programmatic work. She willingly shares her knowledge with staff and has acted as a mentor to staff struggling with organizational skills. Josette encourages teamwork and displays how staff should support one another, which fosters a team environment rather than one of competition. She is a model employee who is well deserving of this Employee of the Month recognition.
Move approval.
Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Ewert.
Good morning. Don L. Ewert, Director of the Public Health Branch of the Health and Human Services Agency, and it's my honor today to be here to introduce Josette Shipley, Community Education Specialist 2 for the Public Health Branch. Josette's worked for the county for 13 years as a Community Education Specialist, and her past experiences were in tobacco education and staff development in our organization, and for many years now she's been working in the Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health Unit. And she's had several projects there. Her most prominent one today, and the one that was outlined in her nomination, is a project to increase educational attainment among our foster youth. Many of our foster youth for no fault of their own, don't have parents who can provide for their education, and so many of them do drop out of high school or don't have a chance to go to college, and we're trying to address that since another part of our agency, our Children's Services branch, does have responsibility for foster youth, and she's been collaborating with a lot of community partners to work on that and try to find a grant that will help us support our foster youth in achieving some more of their educational goals, because we know that education is associated with good health. And several of our other projects include the Shasta Early Literacy Project, which is working to encourage parents to read to their children and others as well to read to small children so that they can perform better in kindergarten. She's also mentoring people who in our organization that need time with help with time management skills, and I just want to give a brief testimonial to her abilities, because when she worked in our staff development unit years ago, more than 10 years ago actually, as my job was getting more complicated in the organization, I attended one of her trainings, and many of you may have seen me carry this thing around. And my whole life is organized in here, and I learned all about this from Josette, and if I hadn't learned that, my life would be much more disorganized, and so I'm grateful to her for her training that she provided. Josette excels at training, mentoring, time management, organization. She exceeds productivity standards in our organization every year, and she's a humble, polite, and calm, diplomatic employee who's respected by her peers, and we benefit greatly by having Josette in our organization.
I'm not going to give it to him, so. Josette. You always trick me and do this. Okay. Josette, it's a great pleasure to have you up here to present this to you. I will tell you that my colleagues, many times when I've watched them do this, they speak that this is sort of the highlight of the meeting, and I have to agree with them. It's really tremendous to have the opportunity to recognize the many fine employees we have at the county who work so hard providing the services to so many different people, sometimes under difficult circumstances. And so for us to be able to take this moment to do that is a great pleasure for all of the board. And I will tell you that I think I could have used some of your organizational skills to help out some of my police officers once in a while. They were sometimes a little slack. So anyway, on behalf of my fellow board members, it's a great pleasure for me today to recognize you as the Employee of the Month for April for 2012, and thank you for all the great service that you do for us. And before we let you say a few words, I'd just like to let you know that we have some gifts for you as well here in the bag, and they include a rosewood pen gift set with Shasta County engraved on the pen and Shasta County emblem on the gift box. We have a DVD of the award presentation, courtesy of Shasta County. There's a $25 gift certificate donated by Mid-Management Bargaining Unit to the Olive Garden Restaurant, a $25 gift certificate donated by the Department Head Forum to Outback Restaurant, and a $40 gift certificate to a local restaurant donated by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. And as my colleagues always say, we're all available in case you need someone to go with you.
We are.
And we certainly want to thank all of the people who made those donations to our employees. Certainly appreciate that as well. So if you'd like to say a few words.
First, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate this. And I appreciate everybody who is a part of me getting this award, from the wonderful employees that I work with that are just so inspiring and just joyful and wonderful to work with, to the people who nominated me and selected me. I just thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I came to public health as a health educator, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to marry my experience and love of education and human biology, and also bring a passion for healthy living. And so it's been a wonderful place to work. We have wonderful people to work with that are just so passionate about healthy living and people living in wonderful, thriving, and safe communities. So I'm just very grateful for this. So thank you very much. I just wanted to thank my coworkers that have come to be with me here. They're in the back 2 rows over there, and my manager, Kathy, and my husband, Doug, is here, and one of my best friends, Jennifer Powell, and then all of my coworkers sitting in front of them. And just thank you for coming.
And so where's Doug? Where's Doug hiding back there? Okay, we're going to have take some pictures, and you can certainly have Doug come up, and anybody else you'd like to as well. We're just going to go over here. And yes, you can come down.
We have to wait for you.
We're in a meeting. I'll be all right now, I tell you. Okay, we'll move on to item R2, a proclamation to designate April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And Mr. Kehoe will do this presentation.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for the Board of Supervisors to make this proclamation this morning. Shasta County Board of Supervisors Proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2012. Whereas sexual assault is an intolerable, violent crime with public health implications for every person in Shasta County as either a victim, survivor, or as a family member, significant other, neighborhood, co-worker, or victim, survivor. And whereas someone is sexually assaulted every 2 minutes somewhere in America, nearly 1 in 6 American women will experience an attempted or completed rape at some time in their life. And where 58% of rape victims report being raped between the ages of 12 and 24. Whereas victims of sexual violence face both immediate and long-term psychological consequences such as fear, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and sexual violence, perpetrators are at an increased risk of perpetrating again. Whereas staff and volunteers of sexual assault programs in Shasta County are working to provide quality services and assistance to sexual assault survivors and promote prevention education by offering training to all community groups regarding sexual assault issues. And whereas leadership, dedication, and encouragement, there is a compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing incidents of this outrageous crime against citizens living in Shasta County, preventing some attacks through increased awareness and holding perpetrators who commit sexual violence responsible for their actions. And whereas Shasta County strongly supports the efforts to encourage every citizen to actively engage in public and private efforts to speak out against sexual violence including conversation about what sexual violence is, how to prevent it, and how to help survivors connect with crucial counseling and other support services, and how every segment of our society can work together to better address sexual violence. Now therefore be it resolved that the Shasta County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the month of April 2012 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Shasta County, and reaffirms its commitment to speak out against sexual violence by remembering victims, survivors, supporting survivors, holding perpetrators responsible for committing sexual attacks, and challenging the behaviors that perpetuate sexual violence in our community. And this is signed by our chairman, Leonard Modi, April 3rd, 2012. I move approval of this proclamation.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Josh, Mr. Lowry, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Josh Lowry, Chief Deputy District Attorney, Shasta County. This proclamation will be presented to the Shasta Women's Refuge, which is very fitting since they are front and center in the effort to assist victims of sexual assault here in Shasta County. And I thought I would just read their mission statement very quickly before we have Jean King, the very capable Executive Director of Women's Refuge, come forward and speak. The mission of Shasta Women's Refuge is to help end domestic violence and sexual assault in Shasta County. Shasta Women's Refuge is committed to providing victims of domestic violence and sexual assault with the resources needed for safety, healing, and prevention of further victimization. Shasta Women's Refuge works with our community to promote and participate in intervention, education, and advocacy to prevent relational, family, and sexual violence. And again, today we have Jean King, the very excellent director of the Shasta Women's Refuge, with us to receive this proclamation. Jean, if you could come forward. Thanks.
Good morning, Ms. King.
Good morning. Thank you.
On behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors and the residents of Shasta County, it is a pleasure to make this proclamation to you and to recognize the outstanding work that is being done in Shasta County. Now, perhaps you would like to introduce some of your colleagues that are here this morning.
I would. Let's see. Would you all stand up, Mike? Debbie, I mean, you're part of our group. Angela, Dana, Libby. I don't know. There's someone from the, Angie, anybody else from the Family Justice Center? Yeah. We're a part of the Family Justice Center. We're all one organization. And although most right here are working in the Family Justice Center office, we have a new home, and we are one family, and we are working together with your support and the proclamations like this that are so strong to really, I believe, make a difference. And I'm just so proud of being part of this family who is working together to make our community a wonderful place to live. And I know that's what you're doing, and we all do it too. And there's Josh is on our board, and Mr. Supervisor Keogh is on our board. So it's just a great community effort. We want to thank all of you. Thank you.
Well, no, wait, before you sit down, let's have self-introduction, starting right here in the front row. These are the people that make things happen. You were.
Dana Anderson, Voices Against Family Violence. Heather Heidi, Crime Victim Assistance.
Travis Heidi, Crime Victim Assistance.
And Mike Burke, Shasta Family Justice Center.
Andrew Mellis, Crime Victim Assistance in the Shasta Family Justice.
Karen McLeod, Crime Victims Assistance Center.
Carrie Moore, Crime Victim Assistance. Janice Biddle, Crime Victim Assistance. Chris Lloyd, Crime Victim Assistance Center. Debbie Allison, Crime Victim Assistance Center.
Thank you. Now let's show our appreciation to these folks. Thank you.
Yes, you may.
Good, thanks.
We don't
I
let-
hope so.
We don't let David have all the time.
Well, I just want to first thank you for that, this proclamation. I listened very carefully to every word, and I hope others of you did. And it's such a strong statement, and we just appreciate your support. I wanted to give you an idea of some of the activities we have scheduled for this month for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And the first one that we have takes place this Saturday, and it is our 5th annual Walk a Mile at 10 a.m. in the downtown mall. This gives men in our community a chance to raise awareness and rally the community to take action in preventing sexual violence. I'd like to thank our chairperson, Larry Lees, and I'd also like to thank Supervisor Les Baugh, who participated last week in our Pizza and Pumps, a brand new event. I think we're going to have a very successful Walk a Mile this Saturday, and thank you so much for that. I also have t-shirts for you I'll give you when we're done here. What started out as a small group of men daring to totter around a park has grown to become a worldwide movement with tens of thousands of men raising millions of dollars for local rape crisis centers. We thank you. April 16th, 5 p.m. is the Shasta Family Justice Center annual sock hop and ice cream social, which will kick off at cool April nights with a 50s style sock hop and ice cream social from 5 to 9 at the Reading Civic Auditorium. I don't know if you're going to talk more about that, but anyway. April 25th is Denim Day. On this day, we wear jeans as a visible means of protest against misconceptions that surround sexual assault. Here's how it started. An 18-year-old girl is picked up by her married 45-year-old driving instructor for her very first lesson. He takes her to an isolated road, pulls her out of the car, wrestles her out of one leg of her jeans, and forcibly rapes her. Threatened with death if she tells anyone, he makes her drive the car home. Later that night, she tells her parents, and they help and support her to press charges. He gets arrested and is convicted of rape and sentenced to jail. He appeals the sentence. The case makes it all the way to the Italian Supreme Court. The case against the driving instructor is overturned, dismissed, and the perpetrator released. In a statement by the chief judge, he argued, because the victim wore very, very tight jeans, she had to help him remove them, and by removing the jeans, it was no longer rape but consensual sex. April 25th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. is our Take Back the Night. It's a tribute to survivors through women telling their personal stories of courage. It will be in the City Council chambers, followed by a candlelight awareness walk on Cypress Avenue, and ending with a circle of strength in the City Hall courtyard. Historically, women face the anxiety of walking home alone at night, and that is why Take Back the Night began. A woman walks alone down a dark, deserted street. With every shadow she sees and every sound she hears, her pounding heart flutters and skips a beat. She hurries her pace as she sees her destination become closer. She reaches the front door, goes inside, collects herself, and moves on, forgetting, at least for tonight, the gripping fear that momentarily enveloped her life. This scene could have occurred anywhere last night, last year, or even 100 years ago. Again, thank you for your proclamation and your recognition that sexual assault has no place in our community. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. I think there are probably, well, that's great, isn't it? And that gives me a great segue into it. You mentioned the Walk a Mile on Saturday. There are probably men in this audience that should participate in that and would like to. And perhaps those listening on air as we rebroadcast, can you give us some contact points, how they can go online to fill it out, the times and phone numbers if they had questions?
Yes, you can go online to shastawomensrefuge.org and go to events and sign up and fill something online out there. Or you can just come to the event on Saturday morning. If you could get there early, the event starts at 10. If you could come between 9 and 9:30, you can just fill out the forms there. We are hoping that it is a fundraising event. There's no charge to participate, but we are asking people to bring pledges. And we're hoping that at least with a $100 pledge, you get a t-shirt. So it's at the north end of the downtown mall in case of rain, we're in the atrium, but we're not counting on rain. It looks like it's going to be a nice day, so. Did I get everything?
I think you got it, and thank you and to everyone for what you are doing to bring awareness.
Thank you. And let me give you yours.
Only after we donate the $100.
Chair Modi, you would look very nice in high heels. Yes, you really would.
Yeah, I've been there before. Ms. King, thank you, and to your staff for your continued work in our community for this. This is a very, very important issue that we continue to face, and I know that we all respect your efforts. And Mr. Lowry, on behalf of the DA's office, your continued support of this is very important as well.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Hawes, did you want to say anything?
Well, I was just going to say, I probably would come and do this, but I don't think there's a pair of women's shoes that will fit the kind of feet that I have, and I'd probably suffer for 6 months after I did it, because they're borderline anyway, but I'm with you on it, so maybe I can do a little donation to
Well,
one of.
not only with us, every year you've
I've
added
done
$100
that.
to
I've done
the
that,
pile, so we thank you for
But
that.
that's the reason I can't come and walk it. I'd never make it.
My husband wears slippers, cowboy boots, peak boots.
Well, the cowboy boots would work, because I wear them all the time. I didn't know you were allowed to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Keough, for your presentation. Thank you. We'll move now on to R3, which is a proclamation which designates April 22nd to 28th as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Shasta County. Supervisor Hawes.
Well, I'm going to start with kind of a little caption of this last weekend. Our crew got to the store to open up on Saturday morning, and the gates were cut. The locks were cut, and they didn't get into the store itself because it's got an alarm system in it, but they got into the yard and took some stuff out of there. And then my neighbor, which lives on the south end of my ranch, that's only as a crow flies about a half a mile from the sheriff's house, was burglarized that afternoon, and they took her mother's silver. You know, those kind of things you don't replace. So I can understand why we have something like this. And their jewelry, it's very violating to have someone come into your house and just freely roam it and take what they want. They got her son's guns, too. I think it's very imperative that people have safes for their guns now, but I've heard of cases where they take the whole safe. So we're just in an era and a time here where a lot of this is happening, and it's a shame. But we need to all keep our eyes out and help, you know, because they just happen to know exactly what time or how long Laurel was going to be gone, and the deputies say these are people that may even know you, and that really makes it scary, doesn't it? Well, I'll go on with the proclamation then. Shasta County Board of Supervisors proclamation, Crime Victims' Rights Week, April 22nd through 28th, 2012. Whereas 18.7 million Americans are direct victims of crime each year, and each crime affects many more, including families, friends, and communities. And whereas crime exacts an emotional, physical, psychological, and financial toll on victims as they have lost loved ones, life savings, physical and mental health, and often their sense of security that has the potential to irrevocably change the course of their lives forever. And whereas more than 30 years of progress for crime victims stands on the shoulders of dedicated advocates and brave victims who overcame shame, isolation, and indifference to gain a voice, rights, and respect. And whereas victims assistance programs across the country are reaching more victims, criminal justice officials are honoring victims' rights more consistently, and our local agencies are serving thousands of victims of crime in Shasta County each year. And whereas Crime Victims' Rights Week, April 22nd to 28, 2012, provides an opportunity for us to reshape the future for victims by honoring the past and reflecting on hard-won victories, and to recommit to working together to advocate for better treatment for victims to help them overcome the harm caused by crime. And whereas the Shasta County Crime Victims Assistance Center is joining forces with other victim service programs, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout Shasta County in the United States to raise awareness of victims' rights and observe Crime Victims' Rights Week. And whereas we reaffirm Shasta County's commitment to respect and enforce victims' rights and address their needs during Crime Victims' Rights Week and throughout the year, and express our appreciation for those victims and crime survivors who have turned personal tragedy into a motivating force to improve our response to victims of crime and build a more just community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Shasta County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims the week of April 22nd through 28th, 2012 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Shasta County. It's signed by Chairman Modi, April 3rd, 2012, and I will move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Lowry?
Okay.
Sir, Mr. Chairman and members, Josh Lowry, Chief Deputy District Attorney, Shasta County. Today's proclamation will be presented to Angela McClure, the very capable program coordinator from the Shasta County Crime Victims Assistance Center. This year's theme is entitled Extending the Vision, Reaching Every Victim. Here in Shasta County, one of the ways we attempt to reach every victim is through the District Attorney's Crime Victims Assistance Center, which works closely with all law enforcement partners in furthering this goal. And again, Angela McClure, the very excellent program coordinator from that organization, will come up and accept the proclamation and say a few words, including reintroducing her staff, I guess, at this point. So, thank you.
Thank you for all that you do, and here's the proclamation. And it's just amazing how close these people will come to the sheriff's house to steal. I mean, I can't believe it. They're getting braver and braver all the time, aren't they? It's really a serious problem, so we all need to be watching out. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Supervisor. And I just want to say a few words. Thanks for still the thunder and introduce my staff already, but I'm going to introduce them again. So thank you, Chairman and the Board of Supervisors. And as Josh said, this year's theme, Extending the Vision, Reaching Every Victim, and it calls on us to expand our vision. So often you hear myself, Gene King, Michael Burke talk about family violence and what occurs in our county because of the prevalence. But as Supervisor Hawes says, it's also the in-home invasions. We just had in the news a double homicide. And while those events are spoken of in the news, what's not talked about is who's picking up the pieces for these victims and their families, that sense of violation in their lives, or the family members are having to deal with the tragedy of the funeral, burial, and just seeking crisis plans. And that is the staff of the Crime Victims Assistance. Can you guys stand up one more time? I won't make you say your names again. But to just recognize that the Crime Victims Assistance staff, not only are they providing crisis counseling for victims of crime, but they're relocating victims, they're signing them up for the victim, the protection witness, they're paying medical bills, they're educating as to the criminal justice system, but they provide hope and while justice is being served at the same time. And so I'm very grateful for the privilege of working with all of you and continuing to seek justice for all of our crime victims. So thank you very much. And one of the ways we are supporting Crime Victims' Rights Week is that we're involved in all of the events that Jean talked about. The Take Back the Night, we have speakers at that event. Cool April Nights is definitely a family fun way to come down and celebrate and just to help out with the Shasta Family Justice Center. And so thank you very much for this proclamation.
Thank you. And let's recognize the staff and all the work.
Ms. McClure, would you mind retaking the podium? Now, at the risk of causing you maximum embarrassment, it is our understanding that you received recently a very prestigious award. Would you mind telling us about that award?
Yes, Supervisor. I did receive locally the Ruby Award from Sir Optimus, which is a great honor. recognizing the involvement with the Shasta Family Justice Center and the Crime Victims Assistance Center, but then went on to receive, well, haven't received it yet, but was nominated for and will receive in Reno on April 29th, the Regional Seroptimus Ruby Award as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now we move on to presentations. R4, receive an update from U.S. Forest Service Shasta Trinity National Forest Supervisor Sharon Haywood regarding the use of off-highway vehicles on Level 3 roads in Shasta County. Ms. Haywood, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on what's been going on with the mixed-use proposal. Quite a number of months ago, your Public Works Director, Pat Minturn, produced a engineering report of a number of roads, and it was called the Engineering Review of Level 3 Roads. And in this report, I know that you're familiar with it, but on page 7, he lists a number of roads that are called analyzed roads. And we are looking at all of those except 2, I believe it is. And we had a letter that was sent out the 10th of February, and it initiated what we call our scoping process. And that letter basically described what we were looking at, the roads that we were looking at. They're all Level 3, and the proposal to increase off-highway vehicle recreation through making those roads a Level 2. The total number of miles of the roads is slightly less than 100. It's like 99 point something, I believe. We got back 21 letters and emails. I should have said we sent out about 70 to 75 letters to different members of the public who either are on an existing mailing list or have said, I'm interested in OHV, let me know what's going on about this. So of the 70 to 75, we got back about 21 letters and emails. And I will tell you that you will hear different numbers when we talk about comments, the number of comments that we got. So let's say that I wrote a letter and I said, I support the proposal. I am a little concerned about a particular curve on the road, the safety there, and I'm concerned about something else. That might be counted as 3 comments, because we're analyzing the different pieces of the letter to try to identify the various issues that are raised. But I tend to look at how many people called us back or sent us something back, and it was 21. The majority of those people who responded supported the proposal. Some of them talked about increased access, increased loop opportunities, etc. Some of the letters, 1 or 2, talked about a concern for the government spending more money. Would this cost more money? They wouldn't want that to happen. Some did talk about dust and noise. Some are concerned about, because right now it is not legal to ride an unlicensed vehicle on a maintenance level 3 road, which is what those roads are now, that once this change occurs, they think there will be increased traffic, and so they are concerned about possibly increased noise, was how they wrote their comments. And then I would say the last kind of category of comments has to do with private landowners who are involved with us in a co-op road share agreement. And basically, we have an agreement with them where they will use the roads along with us for commercial timber haul. And they want to ensure that monies put into that road, investment put into that road, so certainly Fender's Ferry is one of them, will not be for naught, shall we say, will not be wasted over time. Because the raising of a maintenance level from a 3 to a 2, or the lowering of that maintenance level from a 3 to a 2, simply means over time it will be maintained in a different way. Less maintenance obviously goes into a level 2 road, which is primarily a high clearance road. The comment period has ended. It ended the 21st of March. We have an interdisciplinary team that represents all the different specialties: water quality, wildlife, off-highway vehicle, transportation. We have a planner, NEPA analysis person. And so we are starting to look at those comments and attempting to figure out whether any of them are significant and why would we care about that. Right now, what we are proposing to do is to use in the NEPA process what is called a categorical exclusion, and that, if you will, is the lower echelon of NEPA analysis. The next echelon would be an environmental assessment, and the top echelon would be an environmental impact statement. So we are looking at whether or not we have to do something more than a categorical exclusion, and I believe that we should have that answer within the next month. I don't think it will take a lot more than that, and so we would know at that time whether or not we would have to do some additional analysis. I think I will stop there and see if you have any questions.
If I
Go ahead.
If I might just make a comment. Ms. Haywood and I talked about this about a month ago as the comment period was starting to end. And so the rationale was we both agreed that it would be best for her to come forward and just give us an update. So there's nothing that's really changed from our original direction or agreement in working with the Forest Service in any way. This is just more of an update as to where the process is. I thought it would be beneficial to all of us to understand and know where we're going, and that what we talked about back in November when we gave some direction and there was a agreement to go forward with this, that we are going forward with it, and the process is unfolding just as it was outlined back in October or November.
Thank you. Well, I have some questions, but Mr. Ball, go ahead first.
I just wanted to confirm that we appreciate that you're here and you're giving us the update. And from those that contact, I know that probably all members of the board receive contacts from recreation enthusiasts, and all are very grateful that you continue to move in this direction. So I just want to thank you for your continued efforts.
Thank you.
Supervisor Haas.
Well, I just was interested in the time frame, and again, thank you for getting this far. I think we're moving right along. So, but do you have any idea how much time it will take to complete and then get these roads open?
So, of course, they one of the things that we know is, as a result of we had an engineer take a look at the road at all the roads in terms of the safety aspects, sight distance, possible speed, traffic in some cases, and what that engineer did is gave us a rating of the probability of crash and severity of crash on each of those roads. And for the most part, right now, as the system exists, the probability of a crash is low and the severity is what's considered moderate. Obviously, if you have a small vehicle, motorcycle, whatever, collide with a larger vehicle, whether it's a car or a pickup or a logging truck, the consequences are potentially dire to the smaller vehicle occupants. basically what the engineering report has told us is that with some mitigations, meaning reduced speed, clearing of some of the vegetation around the corners to give sight distance increase, some of those kinds of things, that probability of collision and severity of collision could be the same, low and moderate. I mean, we all know that driving is one of the most hazardous activities that we engage in, and so it's not possible to have zero likelihood of a collision and severity of that. So I think that is good news myself. To give you a sense of the timing, if we do not find a significant issue, something that would say to us, you had better do additional analysis, environmental analysis, I believe that there's a range that we would have it done, we would have a decision this calendar year. So this is April. The very earliest I think it could be is likely 3-ish months. And the latest I think it would be the latter part of the year if we don't have to do additional analysis. If we do have to do additional analysis, because we simply go to that higher echelon, we then are locked into some different time frames. Now, one of the things that we did do with our scoping, our letters going out, and how we noticed this project, that puts us in a position that we would not have to redo that if we had to go to an environmental assessment. But we would have to put out a draft and allow people an opportunity to provide some comments on that. So that time frame would put us into next year if we have to do an environmental assessment. But I will definitely give you an update as soon as I'm aware of what that call is.
A couple questions I had was, if there's a significant issue on one road, were you able to set that aside and take care of that issue separately and continue on the other ones that are where there are no significant issues? Will you be able to split that process and make it happen faster?
Very clever.
Well, I'm just thinking, the reason I'm thinking is it'd be nice, as you mentioned the time frame a little bit, is that with the hunting season coming around for those who would be using it for that sometime in the fall. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility.
Yes, in my mind, absolutely. And that would be a decision point that I would want to have some conversation with you on that, because I do believe that is an option, for sure.
And then you mentioned changing these roads from level 3s to level 2s. Is there any consideration of any of the roads staying as a mixed-use level 3, or are you just suggesting you're going to make them all level 2s?
We're suggesting they all go to level 2. I won't say that it's impossible, but we have to have agreement and analysis at a level higher than the forest if, in fact, we say that we want to have mixed use on a level 3 road that is longer than 3 miles. That's correct, right, John? Yeah. And I'm sorry, John Heibel is our forest engineer, and he was with me last time we were here. But so if you have more than 3 miles of maintenance level 3, and we want to have mixed use on that, I have to get agreement and analysis from our regional office. So it's not impossible, but it is definitely longer in time.
Okay. And then the last question I have, and it's a little bit separate from this, but it's sort of the same related issue, is there's still the concerns and efforts are being made in the Begum area, which is kind of more Tehama County, but obviously Shasta County has some of their area up there near Platina, and I was just wondering what's the progress? Do you have any kind of update on the progress for that area as far as their efforts?
I don't know exactly where that team is right now because I've not been a part of a meeting within the last few months, but I do know that progress is being made. We're still driving the routes. We're still getting comments. I've seen an email relatively recently from some of the stakeholders that gave us more feedback in terms of what they want. So I do know that much. I'd be happy to send you an email with a definitive statement that either scoping will end such and such a time or it's going to start such and such a time, if that's helpful.
That'd be great. And the thing I understand is I thought there were several alternatives that were being offered up in that area, and so I'm taking at this point that the Forest Service has not come down as a recommendation on any particular alternative yet, although I'm sure you're still receiving feedback from people who are interested in the area on which alternative they prefer. Is that
Exactly,
okay?
exactly. And I know that one or two of the comments actually even suggested some modifications to an existing alternative. So I think we've actually gotten some pretty in-depth comments from the public there. And this highlights one of the differences between the BGUM process and this process. This process with the mixed use is that lower echelon of NEPA analysis, and because BGUM is at the higher level, which we know we're going to have to do an environmental analysis, we have more specific alternatives and options that we put out to the public, and we say these are the possible options in this entire watershed.
Okay, thank you. And I would appreciate the updating, and also if there's I don't expect the entire timeline, but the most immediate actions that are coming forward, like you're going to quit taking, comments at some point or something like that.
I will.
Great, thank you. Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Ms. Haywood, thank you for your presentation this morning. I have a question on a sidebar topic. There has been much discussion in the media lately of the severity of the fire season and the potential reduction of state fire forces. How does your organization stand relative to fire suppression and detection prevention activities for this coming summer?
We will have the same forces and what we call firefighting production capability. That's a sort of a measure of the people and the equipment that we have. And we will have the same as we had last year. Certainly, our budget is causing us more, I'll just say work and analysis. We are looking at, we're not reducing the number of temporaries in our fire hiring. We are not hiring as many temporaries in other areas. We have incredibly, in my mind, complicated and bureaucratic rules that we use in the fire world, particularly between suppression and preparedness, and we are trying to balance those needs. Preparedness means obviously getting ready for the fire, and suppression is obviously once you actually have a fire and those dollars that you use once you call together teams, et cetera. But we will have the same forces that we've had before. We are also talking to our cooperators and our partners to ensure that we sort of know what's happening with them and they know what's happening with us. I would say the more that we could work together, all of us, in the prevention message, that would be a really good thing, because still roughly about 50% of our fires are human caused on the Shasta Trinity.
Very good. Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. Ms. Haywood, thank you for taking the time to come to give us an update today. We certainly appreciate it, and we look forward for future communications.
Thank you. You're more than welcome, and I will get you a very specific update on BECA.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And thank you for your staff continuing to work with us. Mr. Lees and Mr. Minturn, it just continues to be a pleasure. I very much appreciate that.
Thank you. The next item, R5, is receive an update on the Shasta Public Library System from City of Reading Community Services Director Kim Niemer. Kim, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. This is our annual visit to let you know how the Shasta Public Libraries are doing, and it's another very positive report back. I'll just give you kind of our dashboard of statistics and then go into kind of that next layer that I think is really telling about how the library has become more ingrained in our residents' day-to-day lives. Circulation across the system is up 4% from last year. Total number of borrowers continues to grow, as well as the internet sessions. And one thing that really popped out at me this year was that the Anderson branch more than tripled its number of internet sessions. And what we did last year with a grant was we brought Wi-Fi service to the branches. And so one thing that we have learned is that many people in the outlying areas don't have high-speed internet access at their homes, and so they very much appreciate being able to bring even their own devices, laptops, tablets now, to the library and be able to access forms, purchasing, things like that that they want to do with the high-speed capability. Our library has, we are coming up on 5 years, which is hard to believe that it has been that long. So we're in that process right now, really sort of, okay, how does this fit? What does it feel like going forward? And just like all the work that you do, the library business is really changing so quickly with more ebooks and technology, and also how people use the library. So some of the programs that we have that continue to remain strong are the literacy program, and the library is now our ground one source of adult literacy. We have over 100 pairs. These are adult, predominantly male, who don't have strong literacy skills or have weak literacy skills, and we have community volunteers that are trained and provide them one-on-one tutoring. Through this recession, we've seen many people come from the construction industry that never had to fill out applications, but by their reputation and word of mouth got jobs, and now that they're needing to complete forms and paperwork and they need some help, and they're going back now to get their GEDs, and we're helping them through that process with both online tools as well as personal tutoring from community volunteers. Our partnership with the Reading School District continues for children, 4 days a week after school, coming to the library and using the resources. And we have a number of great programs. So in addition to the great collection that we have programs that happen 3 to 4 a day, anywhere from tot time and story time in the children's area to our local genealogy society comes in, and they will walk you through your search to find your ancestors with really great online tools. Ancestry.com is a subscription that we have at the library, as well as some folks that are just very well versed in Shasta County history and families and helping you find those that came before you. As I mentioned, the collections are core to what we do. We added over 15,000 items into the collection this year. Half of that comes from funding that you and the cities provide, and the rest of it comes from our friends of the Shasta County Libraries. So their bookshop there continues to be very successful, so I encourage all of you to give and buy as best you can, because all of the resources there then get turned right back around to purchase new materials to go out on the shelves. And the hot off the press collection, which is bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, which then when you walk into the Reading Library on your right, those is the collection that you cannot reserve and you cannot return. So you are the lucky duck if you show up and you've got the #1 bestseller on the shelf there for your taking. And those are very popular items and continue to be supported by the Friends of the Library subscription. The meeting rooms also, as I said, a community center. So we had over 2,000 reservations for the community rooms and the study rooms. Estimated almost 50,000 participants coming to those meetings. So I know that was a vision that you all had when this library was designed, that we had a place for the quilters group and the fly fishers group and every group. We have a lot of homeschool groups that use the room, to have a place where they could come and convene their group for free in a nice, safe place, and it has been an overwhelming success. And in fact, we've broken the doors that divide the room with so much use, and so we'll be having new ones installed in the next month or so. But we wore it out quite quickly, and we're going up with a new design, but I think mostly just because they get so much use 3 or 4 times a day. There's been a lot of work done around the edges to beef up our programming. So state funding has been trickling off, and as we prepared last year that we did not put any state funding in our budget, and in fact that was one of the trigger cuts that was in fact pulled, and we will receive no state funding this year for the library, any of the library systems. So that's about $12,000 to the branches and more than twice that to the Reading Library. So we were fortunate. We negotiated a very good contract with LSSI, and that rate was held firm over the 3-year contract. And so we've been able to the best part, absorb most of that. Also, the Friends have been replenishing that collections budget, so we've been able to keep that full. One very significant project that was completed this year was an automation project, and we updated what we call our ILS, which is our integrated library system. So that's what all the books are in, the whole cataloging system, all the checkout, everything. We moved to a new product. This product is called Polaris, and it's kind of like going from DOS to Windows. So we had a very blue screen, Courier font, old school program to this Polaris, which is very visual. I brought something, but that's okay. So when you go and look at your catalog, you actually get covers, pictures of the covers of the books, much more engaging and showing you where and how to locate these books. So that was a very significant project for the library staff. It required us to go through all of our inventory and update that. It also meant that our residents last summer got extended checkout periods because we actually didn't want them back until we got it figured out. So it is now live, and now what it's being able to produce to us is much better productivity reports. And so when we're trying to figure out what kind of materials we should be buying, this program now says to us we have this many adult mystery books being checked out, this many law books being checked out. It can give us much better traffic counts on the type and kinds of materials that are being looked at and checked out so that we can align our buying with that to best meet the residents' needs. Our staff also has been doing very well. We had 2 people recognized, and one got an award from LSSI. LSSI now runs 13 library systems and 5 in California. So it was actually through that joint venture, all of the LSSI libraries moved to the Polaris software program and were able to accomplish a good price point on that for their negotiated purchase. And lastly, donations and grants and volunteers. Without the love this community has for its library, it just wouldn't be the same. So we had, astoundingly to me, over 18,000 hours of volunteer time donated, 28,000 hours, almost 29,000 hours of people volunteering. And we have folks that some volunteer 20, 30, 40 hours a week. It is their job to be there, and they do it out of the goodness of their heart. We also have a lot of people that come in and just have a specific project or program that they want to put on. So we talk about all these 1,000 programs. Some are put on by staff, but many are put on by people in the community that have a particular interest or expertise that they wish to share. So when we look at, how do we get this thing done, with all these volunteers, we equate that to over 13 additional staff that equates to helping get books back on the shelves, putting on programs and assisting. We have this great couple, the Haas, and they repair all of our books. They're the book doctors, and these books sometimes get quite a workout, let me tell you. So they're back there repairing them and making sure that they're ready for the next customer. So we have a good, dedicated group of volunteers and support and friends group. The foundation, Shasta Library Foundation, continues to seek out grants. They helped with that wireless grant that I talked about, as well as initiative that you've been hearing more about in the early literacy program. So we're talking now more about getting the 0 to 3 crowd ready for school and ready to learn and getting words into their world sooner so that they can be successful as adults. So there is a whirlwind tour of Shasta Public Libraries. If there's anything that I can add to that, I'd be happy to.
Any questions from anyone or comments? Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Good morning, Ms. Niemer. This is a good piece of work, and thank you for making this presentation. If you'll refer to the top of page 5, mention is made about the Help Now program. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure, and thank you for bringing some attention to that, because we've had this program now for about 3 years, and it is a online tutoring program. So as children outpace their parents in their ability to help with homework, or maybe their temperaments are no longer aligned, they can be helpful with algebra, chemistry, or geometry, or any subject really. And program has grown, so it also is reviewing reports and essays and written work that can be submitted for proofing and returned. But this is where you log on, you have a real person on the other end of that computer with you that is stepping you through concepts of math, language, foreign language. It's a very powerful tool. All for free with your library card.
Now, Ms. Niemer, this must be a misprint, because it says a writing lab offers students a place to submit writing assignments and receive comments within 24 hours. You're that responsive then, huh?
Let me say, it's a subscription, so we're not doing it at the Reading Library, but this is a subscription. So yes, you would email your essay that you had to prepare for class, and given that you're not doing it the night before it's due, and you had some time to get comments, then you would have a credentialed teacher reviewing that work and responding with his or her comments.
And this program is well received?
You know, it is by the people that use it. It could certainly use some more use, and so I appreciate you bringing attention to it. We've done a lot of outreach to the schools, and we're doing more to the parents and to the students, but it is a really great tool that we've had a number of people use successfully, but I would like to see more use.
Thank you.
When you mentioned it's a subscription service, but is it still free if you have the library card, or you as?
Yeah, the library pays the
the
subscription
subscription.
fee, and then it's available for free to all library card
What a
holders.
great service for so many school-age kids. You really probably need to promote that a whole lot more, because I'm sure there are a lot of frustrated parents who, particularly when their kids walk up and go, I have this assignment due tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, and can you fix it?
Good.
Any other questions? Ms. Niemer, thank you for taking the time to come over and give us an update on the library, and for all the fine work that you're doing and your staff is doing on it.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do love the success story there.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Let me see. The following consent items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested person may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and consideration. I don't have any advance requests.
Mr. Modi, item C5, please.
We'll remove C5. Thank you. Any other requests?
I'll move to approve consent as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Mr. Modi, under item C1, which is the budget amendments for Bernie Library preliminary design study, consistent with my previous position, I will be voting no on item C1.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe. Any others? Then all in favor, with the noted exception, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C5. Approve an amendment to the property acquisition agreement between Shasta County and the State of California Administrative Office of the Courts.
Mr. Modi, I move this from consent to the regular calendar to see if we can provide the public with an update on how we're progressing with the new county courthouse.
Thank you. Mr. Lees?
You bet. Chairman Modi and members of the board, I'd be happy to provide that update. What happened when we sat down and worked out a time frame with the Administrative Office of the Courts, it was determined that we would need to be out of the public safety building, which they're acquiring for the new courthouse, sometime around the summer of 2012. So that's coming up 3 or 4 months. The The condition that I asked them to accept when we made that agreement was, that's fine, we will be out by that time, but please, if you're not going to be building this courthouse for another couple years, don't let us have that building vacant and have us paying rent or lease somewhere else to accommodate those people that are in there now. We went back to them a couple months ago, determined, actually probably 3 months ago now, determined their time frame, and specifically to your point, their time frame is such that it's probably another year and a half away before they make any groundbreaking differences in what's going on with that land. Our particular courthouse, are still consolidating all the sites, making sure that they have all permanent acquisition of all sites, and that will probably happen within the next month or so. So we're probably still a year and a half out before they start. Now, because of that, we asked them to amend the contract that we had that originally indicated we should be out by the summer of 2012, and asked to put another year on that, which they actually, knock on wood, uncharacteristically was quite easy to accomplish with them. And so we're grateful for the help with the AOC, and that's what we're asking you to approve today, to extend that, our occupation of their property, the public safety building, so our sheriff and probation can remain there. So we know if they don't need us out by, so I'm going to get a little specific to your question, David, Supervisor Keogh, if they don't need us out until the summer of 2013, that they can't do anything until we're out, and they don't want us out till then. That means that we're looking at probably sometime around, if things go as planned today, we're looking at somewhere around 2014 before starting the work on a new courthouse, and then completing sometime 2 years after that. So we're still probably 4 years, 5 years away today.
Construction of a new courthouse remains a viable project from the state perspective?
It absolutely does today. Now, the caveat that I will throw there, well, let me back up. Yes, we are absolutely on the list of top 5 courthouses that need to be completed by the state. That has not changed. AOC still believes that we are one of those top 5, and that still remains the same. The caveat I throw out there, we have no idea where the budget is going. Now, this is incumbent upon bonds that have been sold and money coming in, and so where we're at in that 5 and how it relates to how much money's left may deter it a little bit. But yes, the acknowledgement that we are to have a courthouse built here has not changed.
Good. Thank you.
I thought we were like number 2 on the list.
We have always been in the top 5. We were hoping to be 1 or 2 on the list, but there were some others that were deemed to be more ready, and so because of that, they were allocated the dollars first.
Okay, so maybe I'm confusing this more ready versus the most serious problem. I think ours was one of the ones that had the most.
Yes, that could be.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Under discussion, Mr. Lees, thank you for your vision on making sure that we didn't get trapped into something that what is going to cost us a little extra money, so thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to regular calendar continued. R6, Administrative Office Board of Supervisors, legislative update, and consider approving a letter supporting the city of Fresno, and supervisory reports. Mr. Lees.
Thank you, Supervisor, or Chairman Modi and Board of Supervisors. We have something that's kind of unique here, and it goes back to something that you've heard me say as a county and our department heads and leaders. We are continually looking for ways to help control our own destiny. And so this may seem like an odd request when we're asking for a letter to support the city of Fresno. And it is, except that, and let me explain why we're asking this. City of Fresno is working with PG&E to determine if, and the Public Utilities Commission, to determine if there is a high unemployment rate, will PG&E give discounts for their power to large employers that bring businesses to town. Now, when you look at Shasta County, certainly the city of Reading, which is probably where most of the energy is used, that's the city of Reading Electric, so it wouldn't apply there. But certainly in some of the unincorporated parts of Shasta County, we do have that high level of unemployment that rises to this criteria, and we could have a large employer come into town that could take advantage of lower power rates from PG&E because of this economic program. So I'm looking at this as the potential to have an incentive for economic development within the unincorporated parts of Shasta County. And we have, and Fresno's excited about us tagging along with them. It doesn't commit us, it doesn't cost us anything, but it puts our name out there and say, hey, Shasta County wants to be in on this incentive if it does come to fruition. And it's just, I think, another example of where we're trying to continue to do things to take care of and create our own destiny, take care of any opportunity we have to help business, create some economic development incentives out there, and do it by tagging on here with the city of Fresno. I will say there are other counties that are also tagging on too, but they have to be in that high unemployment rate in order to do that. So that's asking the board to consider adoption of this letter.
Mr. Hawes.
Do you know how much of a reduction it would be?
I don't yet.
That would be interesting to know, but anytime you can get something from PG&E, we better try.
Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Mr. Lees, I think the comment in paragraph 2 is very succinct, and I would like to read that paragraph. The board understands the city of Fresno intends to file in support of PG&E's application and would like to request that Shasta County be listed as a supporter in these comments to the CPUC. We recognize the importance of lowering the cost of doing business as one way to encourage job retention and job creation in Shasta County. And I think that's a powerful observation for us to make. Shasta County is a business-friendly environment, and I think this demonstrates just one small way that we are pursuing that business environment, positive business environment in Shasta County.
Mr. Kehoe, I would agree. I think the county has taken a lot of steps, sometimes small, sometimes bigger, to promote business growth in our county, recognizing the economic concerns that we have. Pleasure of the board.
I'll move approval. I'll second then.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lees?
No.
Board reports. Mr. Hawes, we'll start with your end, please.
Yeah, just one thing. This Friday, I will be attending the Sacramento Valley Basin-wide Air Pollution Control Council down in Willows. All but 2 meetings a year we can do from our office over here via phone, but 2 times a year they want us all together, so this will be one of them. That's all I have.
Thank you. Supervisor Hartman?
I'll pass today.
Supervisor Baugh?
Thank you, Chair Modi. Yesterday I spent a great deal of the day in beautiful Bernie, California at the PSA2 Area Agency on Aging meeting. Just a short observation that I think all 5 counties participating in the agency brought to the discussion. All of the contractors are facing the same challenge, and it's the price of fuel. It affects the delivery of the product for those who are receiving meals at home. It affects the prices of the goods as they're delivered in to the market and purchased locally. And honestly, there is no great answer. The reduced amount of dollars into the PSA2 and the increase in energy is causing a challenge to be able to meet the needs of the seniors and the programs in the various agencies throughout the counties. I will say this, is the contractors and the agency are doing just a great job to maintain quality product out there, and I just appreciate the efforts, especially here in Shasta County, of our own senior nutrition program. It's a great effort, and just thank those involved.
Thank you. Supervisor Kehoe?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. I attended the Youth Violence Prevention Council meeting of Shasta County. I have a report from that organization that will be available to you. I also attended the Shasta County Health Assessment and Redesign Collaborative. I see Ms. McKinsey was there also. She's a key player in this organization. They gave us a report on the Medi-Cal transformation, and this, while it is somewhat of a lengthy report, I think it is worth your time reading this to know what's going on in the medical field. And finally, I would like to observe for you that Mr. Lees, myself, Sheriff Pasenko, and Chief Paletti of the City of Reading Police Department attended a neighborhood meeting up in the Cumberland area. That's in West Reading. And there were about 30 people there, maybe 31 or 32 people there, and they are becoming increasingly concerned about theft, vandalism in their area. I believe you spoke earlier to this, Supervisor Hawes. And essentially, both the sheriff and the chief indicated what all of us can do as individuals to protect our families, protect our property. And those recommendations, and I know that Chairman Modi could probably talk for an hour on this morning, those recommendations will be forthcoming to all of us in our electrical bills. So they're practical, they make sense, and it's something that we as individuals can do to help our community and help ourselves. Anything else, Mr. Lees? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keough. I just would add to that, you're right, there are sometimes some simple things that can just give you that little extra bit of security that you may not have otherwise, just to make yourself less of a target when possible. I have nothing else to report for today. Mr. Haas?
I think it might pay to buy some cameras and put them up. This isn't the first time those gates have been cut at the store. It's happened 2 or 3 times now, so I think it's prudent that we get some cameras up there and maybe find out who's doing that.
Okay, we will, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors will recess and convene as the Shasta County Housing Authority. And I will report that the Shasta County Board of Supervisors does not receive any additional compensation or stipend for acting as the Shasta County Housing Authority. We have one item. It's a hearing, a public hearing to consider adopting an annual plan for the Shasta County Housing Authority. Mr. Coons.
Chairman Modi, members of the board, Richard Coons, Director of Housing, Community Action Programs. Each year, HUD requires housing authorities to submit an annual plan, which is part of our 5-year plan, which I presented to the board last year, was approved and adopted. And what it does is informs HUD as to how we spend our allocation and notifies them if we've done any changes to our 5-year plan. Much of the plan that I submitted doesn't pertain to Shasta County for a couple of reasons. One, we don't administer public housing, and 2, we're considered a high-performing housing authority, which means we have no findings. We continually score over 90% on the CMAT, which is the, Section 8 Management Assessment Program, and we maintain at least a 97% lease-up rate. So there are no changes to our 5-year plan. Well, that's not true. There is one change. The one change is that we now administer 912 vouchers instead of 644 since we absorbed Siskiyou County, Trinity County, and Modoc counties. However, those counties we're administering under our administrative plan. So again, there'd be no changes. You have to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Coons?
Good work.
Just one clarification, as you mentioned the vouchers, but again, we're delegating those to those counties in sort of the same proportion as it was before, is that?
Correct, yeah, that was part of our agreement. Though they're all blended into Shasta County, we spoke with each of the counties and assured them that we're going to maintain at least the level that they had when we absorbed them.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the hearing for anybody who wishes to speak on this item. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Pleasure of the board.
Move approval. Second.
Moved and second. Any under discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
The Shasta County Housing Authority will adjourn and reconvene as the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, and I will announce that the closed session item that was scheduled has been canceled. We will not have a closed session today. So with nothing further for the board, we are adjourned.